You know that moment during the holidays when everything just feels right. The tree's lit, the coffee's hot, and that first bite of sugar cake just melts in your mouth. Yep, that's Dewey's Bakery. Here in Winston-Salem, Dewey's has been baking up holiday magic since 1930. From their classic Moravian cookies to cheese straws, and of course, the holiday cake squares, where you can still get one free every Monday. Right now, it's the season for sweet treats at any of our 3 Triad area locations. In Winston-Salem at Thruway and Renolda Manor, plus one in Greensboro at Friendly Shopping Center. Easy holiday ordering is also available at local.deweys.com. It's also the season for raising sweet dough for your organization. Just contact any Dewey's store for more information on how you can set up your own holiday fundraiser, where 50% of the items sold go immediately back to your organization. Plus, holiday stores are popping up from mid-November all the way until Christmas Eve. In the Triad and beyond, these special holiday shops will assist in raising money for nonprofits, and the locations can be found by visiting deweys.com. So make the holiday special for the ones you love and others with Dewey's Bakery, home of free Cake Square Monday all year round. Dewey's, celebrate every day.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.
We are here with Claire Calvin, entrepreneur extraordinaire, and so basically the premise of Mind Your Business is a podcast or vodcast, if you will, to help budding entrepreneurs kind of avoid the pitfalls that most businesses go through.
Gotcha.
So it's going to be like 2 people over coffee.
Okay.
Basically, tell us how your story began in Winston-Salem. And by the way, this is about Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
The city where I live now.
Yeah.
But you started with the Porch, I believe?
Sort of. I started with a small little business that I ran out of my kitchen at first, and then quickly moved into a commercial kitchen, but called Dinners on the Porch.
What made you decide, well, this is what I want to do with my life?
Well, let's see. We moved here in 2007. My husband works he's an ophthalmologist, so he took a job at Wake. We had been, neither one of us are from here. We were living in Oregon at the time for his residency, which, was beautiful, wonderful. And then we're like, well, when he was looking for a job, there were a couple of options, and Winston-Salem was one of them. And we came and came for the weekend and thought it was really charming. And, we thought, well, if we don't like it, we can always move, right? We're not stuck there. So we moved here. We had 2 little boys at the time, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I had been an attorney. That's my background.
What kind of law?
Litigation. So I wasn't working. I had stopped working when the kids were really little, the second one was born. So when we moved here, I was just a stay-at-home mom and trying to decide, was I going to eventually go back to practicing law or, do something else. I think I thought I would eventually go back to practicing law. But then we were here, and then we adopted our daughter. So that was kind of a couple-year process. And she is from Ethiopia. So we went to Ethiopia, brought her home. So it was about at this point, it was like 2010, February, when she came home. And then I was like, okay, well, that's all done.
That's all
Not
done.
really. That's all done. No, but that was kind of one of those things where I was like, well, let me get through. We knew we always had known we were going to do that. So when we sort of said, okay, now our family is complete, we have our children that we love so much. Now we're going to be raising them, and I had to figure out what I'm going to do next. And I didn't really know, and I was like, I don't know if I want to go back to being a lawyer, although I did like being a lawyer, but I know that's kind of like, nobody believes that. But anyway, and I'm from Texas, and that was the one thing, we loved Winston-Salem. It was such a wonderful place for our kids, but I really missed the food from Texas, from my childhood, and I do like to cook, and I was cooking a lot at home. And I was in Texas. I had driven the kids down to visit my family, and on the way home, and my husband was working, so I was by myself. So on the way home, I had like, 30 hours, 20 hours of driving to think about how sad I was to be like homesick for the food of Texas. And I came up with this idea of doing, I was like, well, I could like make family dinners of things I like to eat, like enchiladas and tacos, and then sell them, offer it for people like, hey, if anybody wants this meal, I'm going to be making it this week. Let me know if you want one and I'll drop it off to your porch. So I had like figured out the way I would do it on that drive home. And I came and I my husband when I got home, and I was like, I had this great idea. And I was like, it'll be like 5 days a week. I'll do, and he was like, well, why don't we just start with like one day? I think he thought it sounded,
reel you in.
Yeah, a little bit like I Love Lucy, like that scene where they're like trying to have a business. But anyway, so I started that summer. That was like July of 2010. And I came up with like a menu plan for 4 weeks, and I sent an email to 50 people that I knew that had kids. It was just like the idea was like, hey, you have young children, a family, it's hard to grocery shop, cook, make a meal that's fun and that you're gonna like and your kids are gonna eat. So I sent that out. I wrote a little, it was special to me, the food being from Texas. I was like, these enchiladas remind me of ones that I ate growing up or whatever. And that was just like, it kind of grew from there. It was like word of mouth. So people would ask to join the mailing list. And then, so that business kind of kept growing, and it was just so personal, and it really helped me also find community in Winston-Salem, which, by then we had been here for a couple of years, and I had a lot of good friends and really enjoyed our neighbors and all that. But it felt like a really bigger, wider community that all of a sudden, I would like be emailing with people about their families, or I would be taking food to their porch and, saying, hey, how's it going? I don't know. So that was really fun. And that was 2010, 11, 12. And then in 2013, the commercial kitchen where we were doing all the cooking and the prep.
By the way, where was this commercial kitchen? So
there was, the Krispy Kreme building, where it's actually now is like a real estate agency, but it was like in that strip where like Nobles and BLL's on one end, Nobles on the other. Anyway, so there was a woman who had a business that was like a make and take business. It was called Social Gourmet, and she let us use that kitchen for like 3 days a week. So I would like, my whole week was that on Thursday I would write my blog post and send my email and say like, this is what next week's meal is going to be. And then people would place their orders by like Sunday. And so Sunday I would shop and start prepping. And Monday we would cook and prep all day. And then Tuesday we would deliver. So Tuesday was our delivery day.
Okay.
So it really grew. It ended up being like, we would have like up to 100 meals delivering on Tuesdays, which was like each meal is like a 4 to 6 person meal. So we were really feeding a lot of people.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was pretty chaotic, but it was fun, and it was, So then she was the woman who we were sharing the kitchen with. She wasn't going to renew her lease, and this was in 2013. I was like, well, I could just stop doing this, because it was a lot of work, as you can imagine.
Oh,
it was exhausting. Yeah, and it wasn't really, I was not making money. I wasn't losing money, but I wasn't like, well, now at least we can retire. I was like, this is like, there's so many costs in business you don't think about. Anyways, basically,
I was basically doing this by the seat of your pants.
Totally figuring it out week to week. And there were some nice things about it, and I always would say like, we can at least, we can go home at night. We don't have to worry about, is the restaurant going to burn down? Like, I kept thinking it's so great we're not a restaurant. Wouldn't it be so terrible to have a restaurant? And I was like, if I ever say I'm going to open a restaurant, just like take me out back and shoot me.
My parents used to tell me, you could do anything in life,
Yeah.
but
Do not.
don't open a restaurant ever. Like that has been drummed into
I
my head
know.
as a little
It's
kid, I
really
remember.
good advice. Yeah. It's just heartbreaking. Anyway, so she said, "Well, you can take this lease over or if you want it or I'm going to give it up." And it just was like, I mean, it was a nice place, but I was like, this doesn't, if I'm going to lease a space of my own, this is not where I would do it. It just felt, obviously like a corporate lobby basically of a building. So then at the time, my daughter was going to Salem, Montessori. So I would always like drive up and down Broad Street to take her to Salem, Montessori. And I kept seeing this building that was for sale on the side of the road at Walnut. And it was like for sale by owner. So anyway, long story short, I called a friend and she said, "Oh, well, you need a commercial real estate agent. And I'll tell you this great person." And that was Cindy Christopher, who has the best. So she connected me with Cindy Christopher because I said, "Well, I kind of want to look at this building that's for sale." And Cindy said, "Okay, well, I'll get you. I'll help you with that." And then she said, "I'm going to bring my friend Joe Williams, who's a contractor, and he can help us. Like, if you tell him what you're thinking about doing, and he can help you." So the three of us all met there and met the
And
real
when
estate.
was this?
This was in 2013.
Oh, I didn't realize you were looking at that building even back then.
Yeah, I was. But they were like, so we got there and it was like all, there was just like water everywhere and it was overgrown.
Gross.
Gross. Joe, who has LMI, who's like, that's a construction company. He was like, they were both like, "Do not do this. Like, this is going to be a huge, huge, huge renovation, minimum $1 million. This is just a lot." And I, who was like, had been just seat in my pants figuring this business out, I was like, yeah, that does sound like too scary, too risky. Like, I really don't know what I'm doing. I don't think this is a good idea. So Cindy then was like, "Let me find you a place that would be better for you." Excuse me. So she then started showing me places, and the place that I just fell in love with was the place that ended up becoming the Porch.
Okay.
That is how that came to be. And so people were always like, "Why is it called the Porch?" Because at the time when we first opened, it didn't have a porch. But I was like, well, it's from dinners on the porch, and now this is our porch. And so that's how the Porch came to be, as it really was just kind of an expansion of that dinner delivery service. And that's what I imagined it would be, like a place where we would make those dinners, people could come pick them up, and then I thought we would have like a little market. But then I thought, well, if we're going to be there anyway, we might as well let people buy a margarita.
And it became bigger and bigger.
Yeah, so it became bigger and bigger. And then it really wasn't until we opened. I remember I had a friend a neighbor that had been kind of obviously following along as we would. And and he said, "Well, you never ever used the word restaurant. When you were describing what this was going to be, you kept calling it a kitchen." And I said, "Yeah, because I didn't really want to open a restaurant." But he's like, "Well, this is a restaurant." So I was like, "Yeah, I guess it is." So anyway, so the restaurant business that I did not know anything about, didn't know how to run a restaurant, didn't have any background in that at all, yet opened without having really any preparation for that, took over almost immediately. And not to say that, I mean, we actually still do the dinner delivery part of it once a week, we actually do deliveries every day, but it's very small part of our business now. But the restaurant really took flight that when we opened.
So let's move ahead to like what makes your business model unique. So right now you've got east of Texas, Alma, and the Porch.
Yeah.
So east of Texas, yes, it's a restaurant, but there's more to east of Texas in that complex because I live 500 feet from that complex.
Yeah.
And just to let you know, I looked at that building too.
Yeah, Yeah. A lot of everybody's always like, yeah, and I looked at it again about 5 years later. Like I kept coming back to it because I was like, it's so cool. There's something about it that's so cool.
So you're now now you're a real estate developer, basically.
Well,
Because,
partially. Yeah.
well, you own real
Yeah.
estate.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
developed that. Talk to me a little bit about the East of Texas complex.
Mm-hmm.
How did that happen?
Well, I mean, a lot of it was that even way back in 2013, when we were looking and trying to develop the Porch, I was thinking, well, if I'm going to open something, what I was missing in addition to the like food of Texas was kind of the atmosphere of a lot of places that people are very familiar with who are from Texas, which is just kind of indoor outdoor spaces that are very casual, can, like it can kind of serve many different types of needs for customers and for people and communities. And I had wanted to have that atmosphere at the Porch, but because the space is so small and we don't own the building or anything, I really couldn't do a lot of that there. I mean, I could do some of it, but it was like just keeping our head above water with like serving lunch and dinner was a challenge. So I was pretty purposeful when we came back. Well, actually, when I actually bought the building, it was in 2022, or no, it was in 21.
2021, because
Yeah.
I remember seeing
Yeah.
your little videos, and I personally was going, there's no way this is going to succeed. These people, they're like,
crazy.
yeah, but as I started to see the thing materialize, I realized it was done right.
Thank you. Yeah.
It was done right. Here's what I've seen as a business person. One is you've created a space for, you've mentioned this word multiple times, community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That seems to be your target word, is community. For a restaurant, you haven't really talked about the food, the menu, and all that, but it's almost like East of Texas is a vehicle.
Yes.
Driving community or building community. And if I didn't see it, I wouldn't believe it. But I see it every single day when I drive by it, every single day. Yeah. It is community.
And that, I mean, like, I think, for me, I miss, and there's many beautiful communities within Winston-Salem. People find community through their churches, through schools, through neighborhoods, all that stuff. But I missed what felt like community to me, which was like where I grew up, my whole many generations of Texas kind of roots. Mm-hmm. And there's something atmospheric that creates that community that I was looking for that I missed. And I don't think it's like particular to Texans. It's like everybody enjoys just being able to like be like, hey, walk into a place, see people, be like, hey, what's up? So I do love food. I like to cook. I enjoy, that's meditative for me. And, but I'm not a foodie. So I always am like, well, we're trying to kind of get people reeled in with the food, mm-hmm. like we want it to be really good and approachable and fun, different, but the point is who you're sharing it with and what it's doing for us, as a community.
So your restaurants, every one of them have distinct identities. How did you develop the branding, and how important is branding to you?
Well, the Porch, and I'm very not talented at a lot of things, but I am pretty collaborative. So with the Porch, I had and still have a close friend who had been when I was doing dinners on the Porch out of that commercial kitchen, woman had just gone through a divorce and she was looking for something, just like a job. So I hired her to help prepare the meals, but she was also a muralist. So, and her name is Beth Spieler, so she's just a shout out, Beth. And she, we would just cook and stuff, but then every week for the meals, I would make like a little sheet explaining how do you heat this up, or like if there were any instructions. So you would get your bag with your food and it would have a piece of paper in it that had an explanation of that. Well, so she then was like, well, what if I started like doing art on that so that it was like something fun too. So she would make the menu like kind of look cute and artistic and all that. So then when we were starting to develop the Porch, I mean, we just had such a good sort of collaborative relationship where she really could understand what visually I was looking for in terms of like design and interior design. So we worked really, really well and closely on like the logo. She actually hand drew the Porch logo with the like kind of sheriff's badge look and all that. I don't know. So the brand itself evolved, I think, through that collaboration, through like her talent as an artist and kind of my vision. And then she did the art for Alma as well and the logos. And then and then she was still working for me all that time. She was doing catering as well. And then when COVID started, she left and she's teaching art now, which is like her true passion is art. Right. She's just doing the food gig to pay the bills. But so then when we were going to open east of Texas, when I bought the property, I was like, please, like I need your help to kind of come back and work on this brand together with me. And so she and I spent a long time working on that concept and the artwork and what would kind of become like the look and feel of the space. So I mean, it's super important to me. I feel like I am very visual and like aesthetics are really important to me because I think that you may not even realize it, but it like the chairs and table, like I spent so much time for this restaurant, like trying to find tables and chairs that like felt right to me. So I know that seems kind of silly, but
No, it really doesn't, because as a customer, and as a business owner, people don't remember how much they pay for anything. They remember the experience.
Yeah, that's true.
I had a good experience. I had a bad experience.
Yeah.
And even in like when I read reviews, they'll all talk about the experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
The waiter,
whether it's good or bad. Exactly. Yeah.
And it's always, and yes, the food does matter. I mean, if it's bad food or small portions, it's not going to be good. So how important is social media to you and to your brand?
So, I mean, it's very important. It's something that we are always like kind of massaging and trying something different with. The Porch social media, like when we opened the Porch, like Instagram was just brand new. I mean, nothing. And I mean, we were like, well, I guess we could use this to things. It was more Facebook, I mean, and I had this following. I had a following from Dinners on the Porch. So when we started when we started working on the Porch itself, I already had all these followers on Facebook that were like, oh, that's cool that you're doing that. So I did really use social media. I mean, at the time it was Facebook and then Instagram for developing the Porch and being able to really talk. I mean, I think to me, social media is like how you're like, it's a communication, obviously, tool. So I think people could kind of see who I was and what my values were around what I was trying to do. And so that, and then even like during COVID, I feel like social media was another way of us
reaching out,
really being intentional about, this is why we're doing this. This is exactly what we're doing today. Tomorrow might be something different. And actually we're just in a process now, like we're kind of I would say like sort of stripping everything down, going back to, like you mentioned, what are the individual what are the individual restaurants' true kind of brand identity? What does the company brand say about what we're doing? And then how does our social media reflect that, if it does or doesn't? So we're actually kind of starting for the last, we're starting that process now. So I think probably in the next 6 months, our social media will really be different. And kind of hopefully better reflect who we're trying to be and who we are and what our goals are.
There's no place like home for the holidays, a place where memories are made, a place where family and friends come together. But we know that it also brings a lot of stress. And what if you're also thinking of buying or selling a home during this time of year? That can add even more. In fact, a recent Zillow study reported that 85% of buyers said the experience of buying a home was somewhat stressful or even extremely stressful. Okay, take a breath and listen to the good news. The Ginther Group can help relieve some of that stress and pressure. Of the more than 130 people who reported 5-star reviews this year, over 100 of them described the experience of working with the Ginther Group as stress-free, smooth, and in some cases, fun. Don't you need a little bit of that in your life right now? If you're seeking the perfect home for your holidays, then call the Ginther Group now at 336-283-8689 or visit their website at theginthergroup.com. Even if it's not the right time to buy or sell, that's okay. You can still meet with them about your 2026 real estate goals so that you can work with a team you can trust to have you ready when the time is right. That's 336-283-8689. Call the Ginther Group today. It's time to get serious about your financial future. It's never too early, but it could be too late to get started. And that's oftentimes the hardest part, getting started. How much do I save? Where do I invest? Do I save for college or retirement? How much for each? And who do I talk to about it all? Okay, we'll keep things simple for now and help you answer the last one. We recommend you begin with a local financial advisor, and that's Jennifer Johnson of Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. She'll sit down with you for a complimentary introductory consultation and go over all of your questions. Get started on the path to achieving your financial goals. Visit 3magnoliasfinancialadvisors.com or call 336-701-1600. Get comfortable with your financial future. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Retirement, financial planning, and investments. Securities offered through Private Client Services. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors and Private Client Services are not affiliated. Private Client Services is under separate ownership from any other named entity.
So one of the things that strikes me about you, and in the 3 years that I've lived here, I have reached out to many people. As soon as I mention your name, it literally, a door will open. How important is your personal brand to your professional brand?
I mean, that's something and I think I'm just a little bit too old to consider that I have a brand as a human. I definitely, I'll say this. The way that I think started first being an online person was when we were adopting our daughter. So, and that was we started that process, I think, in 2008. That was when blogs were sort of more
the thing.
Of a thing. And there was there were a lot of mom bloggers, and then there were a lot of people in that sort of a subsection of the mom blog adoption, people telling their adoption stories through blogs. So, and I was like, well, that's kind of weird, but the reason that people were doing that, and I started one, was because once people know you're going through the adoption process, there's a lot of oh, what's happening with it? People want those updates out of genuine family and friends. They're oh, because it's different than with a pregnancy. You're kind of you're pregnant. We know what's about to happen. So I started a blog when we were going through that process. And that for me was kind of a lifeline too, because I was, home with 2 little boys. I wasn't working I had previously had this kind of a career, and I do really enjoy writing and creativity. So I had started a blog about our family and what that we were going through an adoption process. So through that, I just was doing a lot online, and I was because I was like, well, who's even reading this? Nobody. It was like very low risk. So I was really open about, like today. So I was like pretty open about myself. And then when I started the business, even just the dinners on the porch, I was using a blog to write about the meals that so I'd be like, okay, tell us childhood memory that had to do with like why I'm making these enchiladas. So again, I was like sharing a lot about myself. And so I think that people, that I know a lot of people, and then a lot of people know a lot about me, probably more than I know about them, because I was like putting that out.
Very open.
Right. And then when I opened the restaurant, and that's like having not ever experienced like just kind of like people who don't know me were coming to the restaurant and having good and bad experiences. And that kind of like it just was like, that was hard to deal with at first, like people coming to the restaurant and being like, this sucked, everything about like, like this person doesn't know what they're doing, they're stupid, and they shouldn't have started a restaurant, whatever. Right. And it was like hurtful because I was like, oh, well, like I've already told you guys I don't know what I'm doing. So like, but it was like people that didn't know me and didn't know,
right,
hadn't read all my blogs.
People are a lot braver online.
Well, I mean,
bad
it's like,
things.
And whatever, it was fine. But I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is no longer, like, I cannot be transparent in this way. Like, it was like a little bit too, I had just been so transparent and so open. And I did kind of pull back from that, and I was like, well, I really don't want to write a blog now or keep sharing facts about my personal life to the point where now strangers
know more.
Yeah, and I don't know, there was something that so I thought, well, I need to kind of step back from that vulnerability, because if I'm gonna be open to like anybody who wants to walk through our doors and say whatever they want to say, like good and bad, like I need to like, that needs to be something that I can hear, take in. You had a bad experience, you didn't like it, and it's not about me. Does that make sense? Right. So like, yeah. I really had to separate like myself and who I am as a person and I'm doing the best that I can do. I'm not perfect, and neither is my staff, and neither is anybody. Are our ideas, right? And that's okay. And you can come into this experience and have a bad, and it may be that you don't like it, and it may be that we messed up, and it may be that everything was bad, and we have a lot of days like that, where things just, everything that could go wrong.
I think people just don't realize how much the pressure of owning a public restaurant, like for my business, I have like 5 clients. That's it. And so I want to make sure that anybody else that sees me has a good experience, but you're open to the entire city.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
anybody
and just not just that, but people who are not patrons even,
right,
can get on social media and on one of our posts and say what they want to say. You know what I mean?
That reminds me of a story that I worked with a student of mine who is a YouTuber. I've got several former students that are YouTubers that they have a lot of following, and that's how they make their living.
Yeah. And
they are quite successful. One young woman started her YouTube vlog as an 8th grader, and then she came to me as a 9th grader, and we worked on her brand and her everything. And she said her biggest piece of advice is you've got to have a thick skin if you're going to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Because people will say the meanest, most horrific, horrible things just because they can.
Yeah, and we're so lucky. I mean, I I will say that like we're very lucky. I feel like we have a super, super supportive community here.
Absolutely.
And I don't necessarily, but I think and that's that YouTube, or like the kind of like where you yourself are the brand and you are what you are sort of selling. I mean, that sounds kind of crass, but I was like, well, I am not selling myself. I need to say that I am working on the restaurant. That's what the experience of the restaurant, the food, the atmosphere, the stuff, the customer service, the music, the ambiance, like that is the thing. And it's outside of myself, right? It's not me. I do, obviously, like people know I'm the owner and they like the part of it that's like personal, but it's not, if someone doesn't like the experience, then I can work on that. That's something like I can hear, it's not about me. It's about this project that I've created. Right. So, I mean, it's a little sad because I am not an artist.
You're a very outgoing person.
Well, yeah, and also, I mean, like, I think there is a lot of myself in these restaurants. And East of Texas, the Porch, I feel like is so much of me in the sense of like, that's like me figuring out how to run a business, and it's so quirky, so bizarre, but it's like, well, this is the best we could do here, like, and it's pretty good. But then East of Texas, I really was like, this is like who I am. This is a representation of like kind of like what I care about, of my identity, not who I am in Winston-Salem as a mom, as a wife, whatever, but like this is what Texas is for me, and that's a really important part of myself. So I was like, I'm going to like share this aspect of myself through this atmosphere. But now that it exists, it isn't part of me anymore. It's its own separate thing that people can experience for themselves,
One of the things that I think makes East of Texas unique about the experience, and I equate that with, is it the ice cream place, City Sweets? I can't remember.
Oh, Twin City Sweets.
Twin City Sweets.
Yes, I love their brand. I love their social media and everything. Yeah.
So anybody can get ice cream.
Yeah.
Anybody can get ice cream. You go up and you order, but while you're waiting in line, you have this experience. So what I really like about him is that he goes, okay, this week is going to be Harry Potter week.
Star Wars. Yeah.
Star Wars.
I love
and
it.
So he makes an experience. And a couple of things that I've seen you do is, and I'm going to be part of it next week, is you give back, or you do this thing with, support a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. And so you take a business and the business supports the nonprofit. Where do those ideas come from, and what are some of them? I think you do also a pop-up, little merch pop-up business. I think you also did, before you were open on Sundays, you had food trucks come out to your parking lot, which I thought
I just like, kind of like I said before, I never intended to be like in the restaurant business. And so I have a lot of other ideas for things I could do that would be fun for me to do, but this takes up a lot of my time. So then I'm like, but when I have a little opportunity to do something that, like I'm like, oh, well, we could have a little store. Like, I love the idea of having a little store, or, I can't open a retail store because I don't have that kind of bandwidth. But to kind of play with it is fun. And then, the nonprofit, I really do. And I don't know, I was talking to somebody yesterday that had spent like 5 years living in Texas, and they were like, it's insane. People in Texas just like have so much state pride. And, I was like, I know. And that I feel like it's not so much like Texas. I mean, we love Texas, but I'm like, I feel that for Winston-Salem. Like, I have like the pride of the community that I'm living in. I want it to be like so awesome. I want it to like really flourish. And so for me, like, that's small businesses, that's the nonprofits that are serving the community. I do have a real, I want for my children who are now, in college and high school, but I want for them to feel the way I felt about Texas, about Winston-Salem. Like, I like love it. It's like where I'm proud of where I'm from. I want to be there. I mean, they don't have to move back here and live here forever, but I want them to have that connection and be like so proud of where they're from. And in order for us to be proud of where we're from, we have to, it's like a garden. You have to keep working on it.
Yeah, you have to give back.
Yeah.
So let's talk about entrepreneurs for a second. I get calls from some of my former students. I won the business plan contest at Winston-Salem for a business plan. So I'm all about making sure that small businesses succeed.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you 5, or you're going to give me 5 pieces of advice from Claire Calvin. Somebody looking to start their own business, what would it be?
Like what kind of business?
Either what kind of business or
what's the advice?
What should they do first?
That's a good question. Do first? I don't know. I mean, I guess I feel like obviously, the match between sort of like what you can offer, right?
Okay.
With like something that's needed, like.
Yeah, well, I would go with that.
That would be key. But I mean, beyond that, I don't know. I mean, I think for me, like starting with, I would always, after our kids were born, it's like you're busy, but your brain has time to, you're sitting there like trying to rock somebody to sleep, and it's like, what are you thinking about? And I would come up with ideas. Like I had an idea to start a gym. This was actually before we had kids, but we had a dog that was like captivated a lot of our attention. And I was like, well, I never want to like go. Like, I didn't want to go to the gym. I wanted to go to the gym, but if I went to the gym, I would feel guilty that I wasn't, like, taking the dog for a walk. So I was like, what about a gym where you could, like, bring your dogs, but you work out while the dogs are, like, playing. And having some kind of their own experience.
Okay.
So I was like, the dog gym concept. But then, I'll be like, well, that's probably pretty capital intensive, and I'm not sure it's gonna work out, So anyway, I think the reason I was saying, like, when I came up with the idea of the Dinners on the Porch business was I was like, okay, well, I don't really have to lay out any upfront capital because I'll take my orders, then I'll go shop. So I'll say, okay, I'm gonna make lasagna, let's say. Maybe 10, 20 people want an order of it. Then I go buy the food that's for that amount of people, make the food, deliver it, take the money. So like I was only ever, that first little bit, I was only ever like out the grocery money for the amount of orders that I had. So that was kind of, I was like testing. I wasn't intentionally testing a concept. But that's a way to test your concept. If you can figure out how to do something on a really small scale that tests like the appetite and give yourself time to work out the kinks, So those are some pieces of advice. I mean, I also just would say like once you start a business, if you just have the mindset kind of like with relationships, like you're just like, I'm going to make this work, you're probably going to make it work, because if you just don't stop, you don't quit, but I would always like, there's so much, like if I had known all of this, you never would start,
Right.
So I always like don't really want to tell people too much, because then I'm like, well, I don't want to discourage you from starting. Like it is really hard and it may not work out, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try to do it.
Yeah, I was just mentoring a Winston-Salem state student who wants to start his own business. And he said, I'm probably going to start it in like 2 months. Mm-hmm. And I said, he wants to do social media content management. Mm-hmm. And so I was giving him advice, and I was like, all right, so here's my advice. Get a bank account. Start.
Well, right.
If you don't have a way to take money, you've got a hobby.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, and all those like, little business things like you need. Yeah, that's really helpful. Those kind of advice. That's helpful. Yeah, I think the other thing is about entrepreneurship is, I think when you say like how to be a successful entrepreneur, like you just either you are an entrepreneur or you're not, because
Right.
all entrepreneurs are going to be successful and not successful. So,
Yeah.
so like, you can look at any aspect of what we do, from like putting a new menu on putting a new dish on our menu, to having
That's an entrepreneurial business.
night. Like within the business, you have hundreds of decisions every single day that are unknowns, because there's not a blueprint for how to make those decisions. There's not a guarantee that they're going to work out. So you're going to fail all the time in
Yep.
the context of the business. And it may be that, like, I've closed a restaurant. Like I had another restaurant, Canteen, that doesn't exist anymore. It was open for 18 months before, not even 18 months before COVID, and never reopened. And I literally just paid my last rent check in April. So like, talk about like it's not that I'm like a successful entrepreneur, that I'm doing a lot of stuff, and what you're seeing is like, I was there on Saturday night and it was super busy. Well, there's lots of other times when things don't work out that way, but that doesn't mean you're not. I think like saying that there's a success or failure doesn't really make sense in the context of
Okay.
business ownership or entrepreneurship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree, because in my business, there've been a number of clients that I've courted halfway, and my wife's like, "What's this going to do to our bottom line?" I said, "Well, if we get this client, we're home free."
Yeah.
And we're like almost there, and then the client doesn't work out,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
she goes, "Well, we lost that
Yeah,
client."
yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a failure, and I just sort of like move on.
But it's also like, that's part of, it's
That's part of business.
pivoting and saying, this isn't working. What can we do differently? And yeah, it's not, there is no finish line. Like, there is no guide map and there is no finish line. So
Right.
in that way, you've never failed and you've never succeeded, because you're just still, either building or pivoting or retiring.
What do you see the most common pitfalls of entrepreneurs? And I don't know if you talk to business people and go, "Man, I thought this was going to work and this didn't work." Like, what do you think
Pitfall.
attributed to the pitfall, the failure of Canteen? Basically, COVID hitting.
I think it was like really multifactorial. Some things within my just, there were some things that made that business more like it, like, if I look at it, like, why did the Porch survive COVID, but that restaurant didn't? So it's not
Right.
just COVID. So, I would say pitfalls are just like probably getting overextended. Running out of cash would be a pitfall, which I've almost gotten to the precipice of many a time. So running out of cash would be a danger.
I would say number one is cash flow.
Yeah, cash flow. Yes, it's king.
There have been times where like
Yeah.
it gets real hairy, and
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, we have these invoices that will be coming in
Exactly.
in a few weeks," and she goes, "But these bills are due
Right.
now."
Yeah. And then even in that, like, I think as an entrepreneur, like a small business person, and like, so if cash flow is the most important thing, right? You can't really control that to some extent. You can, but things happen that are outside of your control.
Right.
I think having relationships with people that you do business with, whether that's like your customers or your vendors and your creditors, like, to where you can say, like, I am going to pay you, but like, are you okay with me spreading this out over a few months? Or so I think there's a big piece of it where, like who you do business with is so important, and how you manage your money and just saying, and you don't know. I mean, we opened east of Texas in April. Well, the spring and early summer is like the peak of sales for this particular restaurant. But the first year we didn't know that because we didn't have any,
You didn't have a blueprint.
Right. So it was like that first couple of months, we're like, oh my gosh, we're so busy. Like our sales are insane. We were hiring people because we had to kind of meet the customer demand. But then by midsummer, when it got so hot outside, it slowed down a lot. So we were like, oh no, well now we've got too many people, we're losing money. Thought we were going to have these sales. It's really slowed down. And then, fall picked back up and then winter. So until you could really understand like your particular business's flow, yeah, you're really in a kind of uncharted territory. You just have to kind of hope that you can hang on through it. And then once you're like, okay, now we know that seasonality, so we're like, okay, we're really going to make our money and hold on to it for spring and early summer so that we can weather the late summer, have a nice fall, and then really kind of hunker down for winter. So we really manage that. I mean, we manage cash flow on a day-to-day basis in our company, and that's just how it is. That's how it always will be because it's such a high volume of cash coming in and out.
Yeah, I thought about that about your restaurant. It's like you don't have that outside seating in wintertime.
Yeah.
No one's going to sit out there.
Yeah.
And then if you get 5 days of rain, that also affects you.
Or snow
out of your control.
Yeah. Totally out of your control. But what you can control, like we're like, well, okay, what are things that we can sell or experiences that we can create during those times, and so that's part of it, is like just trying to continue to be creative, which if you're an entrepreneur you like to do anyway, so it works out.
So you've answered like pretty much the advice, the pitfalls. Personally, how do you handle the stress or moments of self-doubt? Because we all, as a business owner, you go through that imposter syndrome. Right. Like, oh, I'm successful, really shouldn't be, or whatever. What do you personally do to handle all of that stress?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying I don't get stressed. I definitely get stressed. I don't think that I would say that I guess I don't at this point. And also part of it is since like even from the beginning I've been kind of like, well, I'm just doing the best I can here, figuring it out. I think
for me, that's the biggest advice you've given me, is I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah, I know that I am doing the best that I can. Like, I'm not half-assing this. You know what I mean? So part of me is like, well, if this doesn't work, like, it's not because I didn't try really hard. It's not because I didn't think and try to make the very best decision I could make. Meanwhile, like, I've had a lot of failures, like I said, not just the big one of like, oh, this restaurant had to close, but daily you hire somebody you think is gonna be great, they turn out to be terrible and steal from you, or there's so many things.
That was the number one thing that my father advised, was in the restaurant business or the bar business.
Just theft. And I have really, really great people, and I have.
Well, I know you do.
But it's like, I think that before I opened a restaurant, I thought I was like a really good judge of character, and I could just size people up. And it's like, I'm about 50-50, just like everybody else. And
okay.
So you think, so that means that it's just lucky if you find somebody who's great, and unlucky if you find somebody who's not, and you think they're great. So I don't know. So I think sort of like having just constant like failures or like things that didn't go the way I wanted them to is like a little bit, it kind of starts to feel more natural to, like, it's not so much self-doubt because it's like, well, like, let's just accept that.
Okay.
I'm not that great at this, but well, we're gonna just keep trying,
I have watched East of Texas grow. I've watched the whole complex grow, and now You've got Salem Bottle Works right behind you.
So exciting. Yeah.
I believe that whole Marshall Street behind you is going to explode in the next couple of years. So as we wind down, what's next for Claire Calvin? Future projects, expansion, ideas. And I think one of your ideas is a store.
Well, I would love to have a store, but we'll see. I don't know. I do have a couple of things in the works. Nothing I can necessarily share quite yet, but I will share them soon.
I like that.
Yeah.
One of the store that closed that I had an interest in that closed just recently was the Camel City.
Good. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I loved about it was that it promoted the city.
Yeah, local. Yeah.
And I've actually wanted to do something like that.
Yeah.
There's this business in Nashville, Tennessee, and I think it's called the Nash.
Kind of like that kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah.
He promotes Nashville.
Yeah.
With stickers and merch and all kinds of stuff. And I spent like an hour talking with him. My wife had to pull me away.
Yeah.
But I could honestly
that would be really fun. Yeah.
I could honestly see you doing that because you talk about the city with such love.
I do love Winston.
I adore this city. This city has been so good to me.
Well, Trace, I've got to jump. I got a 10:30 that I'm late to. But I love talking to you. This was so fun. I'm looking forward to seeing you next Saturday.
Yes. Thank you so much. And thank you, Claire Calvin, for joining us. We'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode on the Triad Podcast Network. Our mission is simple: provide information, advice, and stories about the people and places that make the North Carolina Triad such a great place to be. You can find us by searching Triad Podcast Network on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much wherever you like to listen. If you like what you heard and want to support the show and those that contribute, we would truly appreciate a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. It helps spread the word along, as do your shares on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram @Triad Podcast. To get in touch with us, simply email info@triadpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.